So it's the 14th of May of 2020. A few days from now, it will have been 40 years since the eruption of Mount St. Helens, which is right behind us here. You can't quite see the top of it. It's behind those clouds, but you went through an experience
Right,
during the eruption. Now, how did that start?
Well, it started the Friday actually before May 18th. My folks and I, we went to a convention from Seattle to Spokane for a Knights of Columbus convention. It's a men's Catholic group, and my father was heavily involved in that, of course. So we were in a hotel there. I think it was the Red Lion, and if I remember correctly. And that Sunday, we were all gathered, everyone at the convention, and gentlemen came in at about almost 8:40, I think about, and mentioned that Mount St. Helens had erupted, but they didn't have any other information. Well, of course, my folks, and I don't think anybody at that time either had any idea of what was coming.
The scale of
it. The scale of it or anything. And so we, convention was over, of course, on Sunday, so we all hopped in the old-fashioned station wagon and jumped on I-90 and headed west. We got to about Ritzville, and about a mile or two before Ritzville, the sky became just like dead midnight.
Wow.
But no moon, no stars, no nothing. Headlights were almost useless. The amount of ash that was coming down, and the state had shut down I-90 because it wasn't safe to travel. So here we were in Ritzville. We didn't know where to go, and luckily, I guess, blind luck, we drove by a Protestant church, and they had people waving people in, and we stopped and we all got out and ran into the church. There must have been between about 80 to 120 of us that were trapped in there.
Wow.
We stayed there for about 3 days, and it was the biggest positive sign was that the pastor of the church and a group who belonged to it came in every morning and made us pancakes for breakfast. So at least we had a restroom, and at least we got one good meal to live on. After about 3 days, we had heard that there was going to be a caravan heading west. So of course, Mom and Dad were antsy to get home, so we jumped in the wagon and we followed this caravan of about 500 cars. And what the caravan really was a snow plow that was pushing the ash aside, and then behind the snow plow was a water tanker. So it would push the water down just to keep some of the ash from getting there. Of course, because of that, you couldn't travel at any high rate of speed.
Sure.
So it took almost all day to get to Ellensburg from Ritzville.
Normally, how long would that
Which would have been maybe 2 to 3 hours,
It took, Wow.
But of course, that was back when the speed limit was only 55, too,
Sure.
at that time. But, yeah, and when we got to Ellensburg, the roads cleared up because the ash went mainly east. And when we got to the Cascades, we ran into a rainstorm. Well, funny thing is that the ash was so compact on the station wagon that it turned to mud in the heavy rain. So when we finally got home to Bavarian, our Dad's neighbor next door, Don Marinkovich, came over, wanted to know where we got stuck in the mud at from all the mud all over the vehicle. But what an experience. And here we are, less than a week away from the 40th anniversary, and man, I tell you,
Yeah, it is quite an experience. Now, when was the last time you were in this area?
I think it was about 1990.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
And how did things look 30 years ago?
30 years ago, you could still see quite a bit of devastation. I mean, there were shrubs and some bushes. You could tell life was starting to come back, but nothing now. I mean, compared, if I wouldn't have known that there would have been an eruption here, you probably couldn't have told it unless you really looked hard for it.
Like
life
this lushness that we see behind us.
Yeah, it was nothing like this.
Yeah, 10 years after it.
Yeah, it was definitely something. I did save some ash and gave you a nice little bottle of original Mount St. Helens ash, so I'm happy to be here after 40 years. So
yeah,
hopefully we won't have a repeat of it.
Now, how old were you in 1980 when this?
I was born in '68, so I was 11 going on 12.
Quite an experience.
Yeah.
Now, how many people were?
It was my dad, mom, my brother Mike, my sister Mindy, and myself.
5 people.
5, yeah.
All of
riding in the station wagon. Of course, that was back before they made this big thing about seat belts. You know, us kids, they'd fold down the back of the station wagon where us kids could lay down. You know.
I remember those days.
Right,
too.
Right.
Now, how many, like, on the parts of I-90 that were shut down, how many inches of ash would you say were accumulated?
You know, if I remember, there was over a foot.
Yeah,
if I remember, and it was so fine, this ash, that you couldn't get it out of anything. You know, we kept the station wagon for probably 10 to 15 years after, but the funny thing is that even that long after, when you turned on the air conditioning system, if you looked at the vents, you'd see a little puff of ash come out. Yeah, 10 years after, yeah, because it was so fine you couldn't get rid of it. I mean, it penetrated everything. It was incredible. Definitely an experience. Something that I'll never forget. Definitely.
No, yeah, you wouldn't forget something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, but it looks like life is doing a good job to reclaim everything it lost. It's created a lot of new wetlands and ponds, and things are slowly getting back to normal.
Well, this is the first time I've ever been here, and so for me to look back at this landscape, like, I would hardly even be able to tell that happened here if I didn't already know it.
Right.
I'm glad to have someone like you to tell me about your
experience.
Thank you.
I appreciate being here.
What do you have here?
4-leaf clover.
Hey, look at that.